Hi there, so tonight what we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning how to do the running stitch. So here what I've got in front of me is I have my needle, my embroidery hoop, my calico, the colour thread that I'm going to be using tonight, along with my scissors and my threader. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put your embroidery hoop on. If you don't have one of these, that's okay, totally not essential. I just personally quite like to use one. So what I'm going to do is you'll see that you've got your wee bolts here, so you just unscrew that. Take your hoop away. This bottom half will go underneath your fabric and just roughly place it where you want it to be. Then the bit that's got the bolt on it, you're just going to tighten it up a wee bit, pop it on top like so, and then you're just going to tighten that screw. It's basically what you want. You want your fabric to be really tight around the hoop. And then what I like to do is I just pull round, making sure that the fabric is really taut so it doesn't move around. Just tighten that a little bit more. There we go, I'm quite happy with that. You basically almost want it to be like a kind of tambourine when you press it. So that's ready to go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my thread and put that through my needle. So if you've not used one of these before, this is a quite useful little tool. It's just a threader to help you get your thread into the eye of your needle. So what you're going to do is you'll see here that there's almost like a kind of wire hoop. You're just going to place that through the eye of the needle like so. And then I'm going to get my thread, place that through the wire like so. And then you'll get your needle and just through the needle, just push through, and then you can take that off, and then that is you got your needle threaded. The next bit I'm going to do, just put a little hole, I keep saying a hole, sorry, put a little knot through like so, and that is you ready to get going. So with your running stitch, if you're not too good at doing some freehand embroidery, that is totally fine. You'll see here what I've done is I've just basically got a ruler, drawn a couple of lines, and that is going to help guide me do my running stitch. So you've got your needle, and what you're going to do is you're going to come under the hoop and just come up through the fabric, and you kind of want to roughly make your stitch about the same size. So I'm just going to do quite a small one, so I'm just going to come in about here. Again, you can judge the size of the stitch that you want to create. There you go. And then what you want to do is you want to leave roughly about the same gap as what you've stitched. Again, you can make it a wee bit smaller or you can make it bigger. It's totally up to you, but I quite like to have a little bit more uniformed and try and leave a gap about the same size as my stitch. So again, you're just going to come up through and then roughly do about the same size of stitch and go back down. Again, just come back up and then just go back down. And that is basically how you do the running stitch. So what you might decide is once you've done maybe a couple of lines like that, you might think, right, I want to experiment and do something with bigger stitches. So just for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to come up at this section here, and then I'm just going to come quite big, and then again leave a gap, and then just come back down. And that is essentially how you do your running stitch. So what you might also decide to do is you maybe want to experiment with different sizes of thicknesses and sizes of stitches. So that's just a little sample that I created earlier on. So you'll see here that I've used some wool, I've used my embroidery floss, and then with my embroidery floss, which is another thing that you can do, is I've separated the strands. So with any embroidery floss, I'll just show you here, each embroidery floss is made up of 6 strands. So with your 6 strands, you can sort of decide the thickness of how you want to create your stitches. So for that particular one here, I just separated my strand into half. So 3 stitches on either side, and you just simply separate your thread, and then you can just start stitching with that. So again, if you've got different types of yarns or threads, then feel free to use them and experiment with your running stitch. Again, it's not essential. You can just do it with the embroidery floss which you've got provided in your pack, but if you've got other sort of yarns and threads and you want to experiment, then I would say go for it. So I'll just quickly show you just the difference. So this one is just made up of three embroidery strands, and I'm just going to put that to one side. And then what I'm going to do, just so you can see sort of difference, is just come up from the bottom, go back down, and you'll just see that that gives you sort of a nice fine stitch. And again, just back down. And then that's you, and that is essentially how you do the running stitch.